Greetings. Thanks for joining me again for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. You get these every week, don't you? Without fail, as much as possible. Considering I was out at 2:30 in the morning trying to get someone to the airport and I didn't go back to sleep until about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm doing pretty well for this morning video, but if I seem a little sedate, you know why. All right, so uh, new releases to show. Not as many as last week, but not a bad week. A couple of things clearing business here at the beginning. I just wanted to mention I gave a whole list of new releases, upcoming new release dates last week, and I neglected to mention Norah Jones has a new album coming March 8th called Visions. Justin Timberlake has a new album coming March 15th, and the Liam Gallagher John Squire album now has a date of March 1st, the 1st of 4th, and March 1st. So be looking for that. There's a second single that's premiered. They just announced a new Pet Shop Boys album for April. Excited about that. So their 15th. Good Lord. All right. Let me get to the new releases. I think this week is not bad, but it's not as big as last week. So, such is life. The first release, though, I think this is something that a fair amount of people have been waiting for a long time. Fish's Round Room, and this is one of their last sort of Electra era albums, I believe. And I don't think it's ever been on vinyl before. Fish's 10th studio album on vinyl for the first time. 2 LP, 180 gram, round room, first pressing, colored vinyl, produced by Bryce Goggin, vinyl mastered by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grunman Mastering. The color vinyl, I believe it's some kind of a split where it's like half and half or something. I think some might be like magenta E and then brown maybe. I don't know. Obviously I haven't seen it, but new Fish. If you're a Fish completist, you need this. And I assume that it gets kind of frustrating because a lot of people just rush to the internet and pre-order a lot of this stuff. And in some cases, I understand that, especially when it's something that we're not going to carry. Sometimes you just don't know. I had somebody last week asking me for Alice in Chains Jar of Flies is being reissued soon again. And but this time they were doing some sort of limited, like, clear vinyl pressing or something, limited to 1,000 copies, sold out on the internet like immediately. And then people were asking me if I'm carrying it, and apparently no. We're not able to get that, just like the Billy Joel 7-inch is direct to customer only. So if you see D2C, that means that you have to order it from the website and get it directly from them. Even I just mentioned Pet Shop Boys. There's a version of that has like them re-recording 4 of their old songs on a second record. Well, I could spend the extra $25 to get that, I guess, and get them on white vinyl. But I don't know. I think the originals are the definitives, but we're in this sort of culture of like, oh, which is the most collectible? Trading up. I had someone the other day trying to sell back a bunch of records that were versions that they'd traded up for what were better versions of the same records. Heard someone recently talking about a story on YouTube where they bought a Paul McCartney record for $60 and sold it for $2,600 a few months later. The most recent McCartney album. So anyway, it gets crazy. I'm about the music. I don't know. J Mascis. I mean, it's nice to have things when you can get your hands on them, I suppose, but the Loser Edition, limited edition, first pressing on color vinyl. New J Mascis album, Dinosaur Jr. This is What Do We Do Now? I gotta say, I'm really happy that Subpop has finally been giving us these loser editions of records, which are their sort of like special color vinyl pressings. For a while, they were being very precious about that and only selling them on their website. And I don't know if word got back to them, but it's like you guys sort of made your bread and butter on indie store support, and to not allow indie stores to sell those special editions was kind of like uncool. And I guess they listened, because that, and I have a few of them now starting to come in. So thank you, Subpop, whoever you were there. Thank you for listening to independent stores. Excited about the J Mascis too. The new Hunger Games soundtrack. This is music from and inspired by the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the thing that's here. That's sort of the thing that they're kind of marketing a lot, is the new Olivia Rodrigo song, "Can't Catch Me Now." But this is on Orange Crush translucent vinyl, so an orangey vinyl. But really, this is mostly produced by Dave Cobb, who is a very famed country record producer. Chris Stapleton, Casey Musgraves, people like that. I believe Casey. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Brent Cobb is his brother, country artist, and this is sort of a list of a lot of sort of modern alt country Americana people. Sierra Farrell, Molly Tuttle, Bella White, Billy Strings, Charles Wesley Godwin. You get the picture. All right. Let's see. So there are 2 Blue Note tone poets this week. We get the new Blue Mitchell reissue of Down With It. This is the Blue Mitchell Quintet, featuring High Heel Sneakers, March on Selma, Perception, and others. This record, 1966, and features Blue Mitchell on trumpet, Junior Cook, Chick Corea on piano, Gene Taylor on bass, Aloysius Foster on drums. So that looks like a nice one. Pretty hard to get. Originals. The other one is kind of an interesting choice. Sometimes Blue Note goes a little more modern. And so this one, Joe Lovano. And this is Joe Lovano, the trio Fascination, featuring Elvin Jones and Dave Holland. This was recorded in 1997. And it's a little more expensive than the other, because it's 2 record set. Let's see. This is all the Kevin Gray, mastered by Kevin Gray. This is edition 1. So anyway, Joe Lovano, 4 jazz completists, Blue Note completists. All right. Let's see. So now things get a little tricky. So there is a new issue this week, reissue of Paul McCartney's Band on the Run, 50th anniversary edition. Right now I only have the CD to show you. The record is coming sometime this morning. So I will have it for the release date. The record is half-speed mastered. The CD is a 2-disc set. The second disc has previously unreleased rough mixes, and disc 1 is the original US track list. So I don't know. I'm guessing then that there were some differences worldwide. Not so familiar. Those of you who know me know I'm not a super fan of Jet. I just don't like that song. But I do like Band on the Run is fine. And anyway, so that's a 2 CD set of that. But the vinyl will be here shortly. The other one that I'm sort of missing to show you, but will be here in that same shipment, the Who. So I have Who by Numbers, which is also half-speed master at Abbey Road, and we'll be getting here momentarily Quadrophenia, which will be a double record, obviously a little more expensive. But these are mastered by John Astley at Close to the Edge, and Miles Showell did the cutting of them. So nice modern half-speed mastered editions of these. This features Squeeze Box. So, all right, I think that they're getting pretty close to finishing up the Who, at least the early era of albums, the ones that are sort of probably most wanted, I guess. Okay, and a new release from Nas, Magic 3. This has actually been streaming for a little while, and we finally got the vinyl. There's a couple different color variants on it. This one features Lil Wayne, produced by Hit Boy again, who I think is up for some Grammys. But yeah, Magic 3. This is the limited edition striped vinyl edition. So check that out, hip hop fans. If you are into aughts rock stuff, pop rock, The Fray with their debut record, The Fray, and also the follow up with the extremely popular How to Save a Life. Both of these are on vinyl. I don't know if this might be the first time. I don't know. I've never seen them on vinyl before. This one has You Found Me, and Never Say Never. This one has Over My Head, Cable Car, and obviously How to Save a Life, which were both pretty big hits. They're still around, I believe, but not having hits on that level. But there are some bands that they just have their time and then things move on. So it happens. Let's see. The soundtrack for the show Lost, season 1, by Michael Giacchino, who's gone on to do so much amazing soundtrack work. This show was definitely sort of a phenomenon and has a sort of infamous ending, but it's still a good show, I believe. At least for its time, it sort of was iconic and then kind of moved things forward stylistically. First ever vinyl pressing of the score for Lost Season 1. First ever. 2 LP with foil jacket. Includes notes by J.J. Abrams, Damon Lindelof, Michael Giacchino, more. I had someone tell me that they ordered this online too. So, it's not surprising that these things happen because, sometimes you guys just don't know otherwise. So, and then sometimes I don't know either. Things just pop up, so you never know. Oh, another loser edition. How cool is that? For the Vaselines. This is their album. Well, really, it's a compilation, The Way of the Vaselines, A Complete History. This has been out sort of off and on in the past, but the very inspiring album for like Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, apparently. Sort of the tagline that gets put on this a lot, but this is the first time on vinyl with the original artwork, so that's kind of important. Features Son of a Gun, Rory Rides Me Raw, You Think You're a Man, Dying for It, yeah, and Let's Get Ugly. Sort of, yeah. All right. Another great artist from the past, Amy Winehouse, Frank. This is a picture disc version of this album. So if you want Amy to be in the flesh spinning on your turntable while it's playing, there she is. Frank, she looked so simple and kind of like demure and not the sort of like sad sort of way things turned out. Absolutely terrible. Such a talent. Available on picture disc for the first time. So maybe some Amy Winehouse collectors. The first song is her great infamous track, F Me Pumps. Can I say that on YouTube? I guess so. There are some things, by the way, that have happened on YouTube this week that are extremely disturbing. And it makes me just cringe hearing stories like I've been hearing. So if you look at the news, you'll see what I'm talking about. and it's something that happened in the Philadelphia region. Shocking, horrifying, should never happen. And the fact that the more that comes out about that story is just the most depressing. And so, enough said about that. I'm here for the music. Nouvelle Vague. Oh my gosh, this was a great record. This is a reissue of a 20th anniversary edition, limited edition, audio remastered for vinyl. Includes 12 bonus tracks. This is basically, it was a covers album. Nouvelle Vague was kind of a collective that did lounge covers of mostly 80s and alternative songs. So, most of the stuff that ended up on the bonus record, most of it is like KCRW sessions, live performances of it. But this album, they do covers of Level Tear Us Apart, Just Can't Get Enough, In a Manner of Speaking is maybe a little more underground, Guns of Brixton, This Is Not a Love Song, Too Drunk to F, Marianne from Sisters of Mercy, Making Plans for Nigel, A Forest from The Cure, I Melt With You, ends with Friday Night, Saturday Morning. Anyway, that's kind of a cool record. I think that there's actually a new one coming out too. They have another reissue coming and then the full new album. Another band that I'm sort of learning more about has 2 reissues this week. Rainbow Kitten Surprise. This is Seven and Mary and RKS. Another band that I get a lot of questions for, and their records are kind of hard to find. So it's nice to see Rainbow Kitten Surprise getting some stuff out there. A few interesting little jazz tidbits here. Barefoot Adventure by Bud Shank. This is West Coast jazz, a soundtrack for, looks like a surf movie. Bud Shank featuring Carmel Jones and Bob Cooper. Bud Shank's rarely issued musical score for Bruce Brown's film Barefoot Adventure, first time on all analog 180 gram vinyl, mastered by Kevin Gray from the original masters. This is one of those Impex audiophile. So if you got like the recent Miles Davis, the Friday night one, same manufacturer. They also did the recent Al Di Meola, the trio, him and John McLaughlin, trying to remember the third person, did their sort of record too. So if you like jazz with sort of audiophile quality, check that out. Another great trio, jazzy, Medeski Martin Wood. This is their album It's a Jungle in here. First widespread vinyl release. I think maybe it came out last year on color vinyl, very briefly. But anyway, it's their second album from 1993. You can see there the track list. Features Where's Sly, Modi Mo, It's Jungle in here, Wiggly's Way. These guys have gone on to be incredible studio collaborators for other artists as well. Another jazz reissued, Gil Scott-Heron, Free Will. And this is the AAA edition cut in an all analog chain by Frank Merritt at the Carvery in London. 180 gram vinyl. This features The Middle of Your Day, The Get Out of the Ghetto Blues, Sex Education Ghetto Style, and anyway, there you go. Gil Scott-Heron, another person with kind of a tragic life. Okay, just a few things here left. Jerry Garcia, Run for the Roses, just a reissue of this. I think this had been sort of out of print for a little bit. Another band that I'm waiting for their other album as well should be here by Friday. Orgy, and this is their album Vapor Transmission. Candy Ass is on the way. So some people are sort of like, I don't know who's waiting for this, but I know that there got to be some people. A 2000 release, so 23 years old already. This features Fiction, Dreams in Digital, and the bonus track, The Spectrum, plasma vinyl pressing. Ooh, plasma? Is it red and black or something? I don't know. And then a couple of other CDs I want to mention. The Last Dinner Party. So kind of a female rock band from London. Their new CD. Britty. Hello, I'm Britty. Britty's kind of a cool chick. She's on Dan Auerbach's label, Easy Eye Sound. He produced it. It's his sort of latest protege. There's a new Black Keys record coming in early April. The Richard Thompson Band is a CD, Historic Classic Concert live in Nottingham, 1986. I'm not so sure this isn't some kind of like concert release or whatever they call them, unofficial. And then KMFDM, Let Go. Sort of expecting this album eventually. I don't know where the vinyl is, but CD. I always love KMFDM's artwork. It's great. And then I thought, well, one thing I sort of wanted to briefly discuss. I saw in the news this morning that Universal Music has decided to pull all of its music from TikTok because they couldn't come to an agreement apparently on how much TikTok was going to pay Universal for the use of the music. And Universal, being their benevolent selves, say, oh, we couldn't come to an agreement. TikTok wants to basically take over the careers of artists. They want to promote all the big people like Taylor Swift and not promote all of the smaller artists and not compensate people, and we need to compensate our artists and blah 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 blah. TikTok came back and said Universal Music is greedy. Too bad that they couldn't work with us better to come up with a regular sort of like plan for this. And I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I could see where TikTok basically is trying to strong arm Universal Music and say, we're going to do what we're going to do. And other labels have signed on to us to say that they're fine with what we do. And if you want your music promoted, you're going to have to do what we tell you. And Universal Music is like, again, acting sort of like the benevolent, like, oh, we're here to protect the artists. And I think there's some of it they're there to protect the artists, and some they're there to make money. So it really is somewhere, but it's a little bit of both. So we'll have to see how that story plays out. But if 60% of what is played on TikTok is removed, in a way, I suppose it's good for people who listen to physical music because they actually have music to listen to. Play your record, play your CD, whatever. Play the download that you bought. I don't know. But if the other side of that is that the artists are not getting promoted the way that they normally would because TikTok is not playing them. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see where that goes. And ironically, some of that information and news I was reading about this morning on a website, Pitchfork, which has been sort of a news source for quite a while. And the news came down on that a week or two ago that Pitchfork is being sort of, I don't know if shuttered is the word, but being absorbed into GQ magazine as its sort of online music source. And I'm not sure how that's going to work. I see a lot of like the writers are probably like going to be leaving. I don't know how many of their sort of like young female audience is going to go to GQ to read record reviews. it's kind of a sad development for independent sort of music journalism. It's just one more of these that have sort of fallen. But there are other places that you can go for music news, obviously, but it is sad because I think they sort of had, while while they could be very, very condescending and very critical, overly judgmental, they also were a voice for a lot of independent artists. So it's kind of we'll have to see where that sort of like falls out in the long run. So I guess they're going to be more of just sort of like a news feed. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that they'll have writers, but certainly not as many, or maybe not on the caliber that they already had. I assume some will probably be getting their walking papers if they haven't already. But anyway, enough said. Those are just a little bit of music news tidbits. For my review today, I don't want to keep this very long, but I did want to sort of mention this band. I've mentioned a lot of 80s bands, a lot. And I know I mentioned them before, but I really sort of wanted to kind of talk briefly about this particular album. And the band is In Excess, and the album is The Swing. And the reason I picked this album is I think it was probably, I don't know, it was probably one of the lesser selling albums of the early ones in the US. Their first sort of breakthrough album, Shubu Shuba, had the hits The One Thing and Don't Change. And Don't Change was not a huge chart hit, but it was a big college radio hit. And The One Thing actually broke into like the top 20 and did pretty well in the US. So this was the dreaded sophomore follow-up to that success. They'd had a couple albums before Shabu Shuba, but they didn't really do much in the US at all. And probably did more on reissues than anything. But The Swing was basically like the sophomore record in if you weren't in Australia. And so they led this off with the single The One Thing. The One Thing was a great song, featured some vocals from Daryl Hall, and was produced by Nile Rodgers, who was kind of on fire at this time with David Bowie's Let's Dance and Madonna's Like a Virgin, producing those records, had all of that chic music behind him. And the song was great, and it just didn't really translate to American radio, even though like the video was kind of a hit. And it was sort of like kind of sad in a way that it didn't catch on. And then other songs from this they released as singles, I Send a Message and Burn for You. And again, neither of those really caught on. But whenever I hear this album, there's a couple things. One, I think of In Excess in the 80s. One of the first bands that I saw in concert, Kansas City in like 1984 or 80, I think not 85, I think it was more like 84. To this day, Michael Hutchence, rest in peace, is still one of the top 3 frontmen performers I ever saw. And I now when I hear people talk about like Jim Morrison and people like that, who he gets compared to a fair amount, I can kind of understand and see like why the magnetism and the sort of swagger and the way he sang and carried himself on stage is very depressing that he's been gone now for 25 years or so, longer than that, in a tragic sort of self-inflicted accident. But anyway, Miss Michael. So this album is a very summery album too. I remember playing it a lot. I had a little cassette player that it's like just a little one of those tape players that had the button that you push, and I would carry it. My car had no tape player, no CD player. It just had a radio, and I loved listening to certain music, so I made a cassette of this, bought the vinyl, and then did the terrible thing of home taping it, and then played that in the car, and that was my soundtrack to my summer, was this album. And it's great because Original Sin is the first song is kind of a summary type song. Maybe the problem was the title of the song is like, how are you going to play a song called Original Sin on American radio? I don't know. Could they handle it? Um, God, I hadn't even gotten to like George Michael and I Want Your Sex yet. So, uh, but that's a great lead in song. Melting in the Sun is the second track. It's got a kind of a gritty riff to it, a guitar riff, and then like sort of these weird panned keyboard effects. But it's a very funky kind of song. And then I Send a Message is sort of their synth rock song. It had this sort of driving kind of like synth riff and very, very inventive use of music. I think the Ferris brothers were just so brilliant in coming up with different kinds of sounds. Andrew played the keyboards. Then Dancing on the Jetty is kind of a more summery song, and then The Swing, and then that ends side one, and the swing, the title track is more of a rocky song. I think it sort of harkens back a little bit to Shabu Shuba. And then side two, Johnson's Airplane is I don't know, conjures visions of in me of like the outback or something like that. It's just a very kind of airy, dry, summery kind of feel in the lyrics too. Love Is What I Say is again sort of like that, and Face the Change are maybe a little more lightweight kind of songs, even though not necessarily like lyrically, I guess, but musically they kind of have a lighter feel. Then Burn For You is just great. It's like got all of this cool, almost Peter Gabriel percussion type stuff. It's got a catchy little melody and all these little drum fills, and great song. And then All the Voices is kind of more of a rock song to finish it out. I just picked up, I was like, if I want to talk about an INXS album, what album do I want to talk about? And I think also because this album was kind of between hit albums. Shabu Shuba came before, and right after this was Listen Like Thieves, which had that song, a couple other songs, but What You Need was a huge American breakthrough for them. That song went to number one, and then after that came the Kick album, and that was like mega. So, and then, they had sort of, like all bands that go mega, they had a hard time kind of like staying with it, staying relevant. They still had hits and were still, people still bought their records more than like, a band like Mr. Mister or something like that, who had like two big hits and then sort of disappeared from people's consciousness. INXS managed to stay more relevant, but it's just a very kind of sad thing the way that things ended up the way they did. But this was a very special time for them when they felt super fresh, super new, energetic, and it could have gone Duran Duran or INXS or whoever was that Culture Club, whoever else was like real popular then, but they were definitely sort of a special band, and people need to remember them for more than just the Kick album is what I'm saying. So all right, thanks guys, that was my little talk soapbox corner for the week. And like I said, I should have the McCartney and the Quadrophenia shortly, so appreciate you checking it out and watching this channel every week, and can't thank you enough. I put Oasis up here because I sort of wanted to name check that in relation to the new Liam Gallagher John Squire album, which I keep mentioning. It's like Oasis and Stone Roses are having a little baby or something. I don't know. All right, take care. See you next week. Peace.